Dolphins traded Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith to the Steelers for safety Minka Fitzpatrick and a day 3 pick swap. I read into this a little bit, and according to this Sports Illustrated article, the Dolphins were like more than happy to get rid of Jalen Ramsey. Apparently, he was just like showing up late and was just a locker room issue. And I don't know if I put that as much on Jalen Ramsey as I do the coaching staff down in Miami, because from what we've also been hearing, it's just been kind of a mess down there. And it's apparently been run.
I think we can put some of it on Ramsey too. Like, you're professional.
Yeah, no, he definitely deserves his fair share of blame. Yeah. But the last like 2 years, we've really not heard many great things from the coaching staff and the organization as a whole in Miami. I don't really know how I feel about this trade. My initial thought was like, when the only thing that I saw was the Steelers traded for Jalen Ramsey, I was like, oh, okay. And then they put in there that it was for Minka Fitzpatrick. And I'm like, all right, well, still okay. And then they got Jonnu, and I still felt the exact same about it. So I think adding Jonnu Smith to the Steelers tight end room is probably an upgrade. He played really well last year, but I don't know. I think they just got rid of one player and created a hole on their defense almost for no, like, they filled a hole and then they got a hole wide open now. Pause.
I think that he probably, I know that, like, remember like all of the stuff going on with the Steelers defense last season where like Cam Hayward was like calling guys out and like,
yeah, people were frustrated.
And I mean, like, over the last 2 seasons, like, Minka Fitzpatrick's had 1 interception. I don't think the style that they have been playing has been like very like stylistic wise, like, helps like with the way Minka plays. And I think that like having him on that defense, they just clearly weren't happy. But just from like a straight, like, and I don't think that they wanted to pay him again, but I just think straight from like a trade, like player for player perspective is like, Minka's 28 years old. Jalen Ramsey's 30 years old. Minka is still a really good player. I'd say that like Jalen Ramsey has been declining over like the last 3 seasons, like pretty like noticeably. Like, he's not the same type of lockdown corner as he once was. And now it's getting to the point where they're talking about him like playing safety or nickelback or something like that. So I just think that like, just from like laying it out, like from that perspective, like I wouldn't have done that personally, just because like you're getting a player that's 2 years older, who's already past his prime. And you had a player that was 2 years younger that like maybe stylistically, it just wasn't his strong suit. And they needed to figure out a way to like help him out or maybe move him around to a different position and figure it out. I would have rather figured it out with Minka Fitzpatrick and had the opportunity to pay him again than getting him out of my building for essentially nothing and getting Jalen Ramsey back, who is on the back 9 of his career. Like, he might play 1 or 2 more seasons, like, realistically.
You think it's only going to be that? You think he'll only play that many?
I mean, he has 1 year left on his deal right now.
I think I can see him I don't think the Steelers will end up giving him an extension unless they already did and I missed it.
1 season. Yes.
No. I think somebody else will end up signing him after that.
But why would you trade for somebody who's, I'm saying from the Steelers perspective, why would you trade for somebody who's only gonna be on your team for 1 season? Because it makes nothing to steal. We're gonna dive into this obviously like when we get into it, but just this deal right now is like you have Pat Freiermuth. So they pretty much said like we don't like Pat Freiermuth at this point, because bringing Jonnu Smith in, trading for him, they're going to play him. They gave him an $8 million raise. They gave him an $8 million raise this season. Ramsey got a $1.5 million raise. I just don't really understand that at all. This season, they also traded for DK Metcalf and then signed him to a mega deal, 4 years, $132 million. And then immediately on the outside, like you have a player in George Pickens who is I would say ascending, and has, if you line up like the best 20 catches of last season, George Pickens is probably in like 5 of them. And I think that he hasn't played his best football yet just because of the quarterbacks that he's played with and the offenses that he's been in. So I'd say that George Pickens is an ascending player. And you get somebody in DK Metcalf who is older. I feel like the verdict is kind of already out on DK. I don't think he'll ever be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL. So you're, again, like you're going older and getting younger guys who you drafted and get out of the building, and you're getting out of them before you have to give them that payday, which I don't like fully like agree with, especially somebody like Pickens, who I know that there's been locker room problems with him and all this, that, and the third, but he's clearly a really talented player. And I mean, you might be pushing that problem off on somebody else, but you should have been able to you should have tried to fix that internally. I think so. And then like at all these moves, dude, like Aaron Rodgers 1 year.
They're just getting older.
You know how I feel about that.
position.
Darius Slay 1 year. Like, I just don't like anything that they've done this offseason. And this trade really, this was another one. Like, why would you want to age up a position?
Yeah, they got older at wideout. They got older at quarterback. They got older in the secondary. They're not paying TJ Watt. All of these guys are going to be DK Metcalf will be there because obviously he just signed his deal. But like Slay was 1 year. This Jalen Ramsey is 1 year. Like, are you really going to pay a 30-year-old
Did they get better?
guy?
From
maybe
last season,
maybe for 1 year, yes.
From last season to this season, how much better have they gotten?
Not enough to make me feel good enough to be like, oh yeah, the Steelers are a Super Bowl contender.
So if you looked at me in the face and said like, so last year they were what? What was their record last year? They won 9 games. They were.
I think so.
If you were to like look at me and like be like, hey, like, all right, they brought back Justin Fields. They brought back this person. We're gonna have some sort of like cohesion year 2 with either Russ or Fields, like in this Arthur Smith offense. Let's go get a running back. Let's get DK Metcalf. We think that's an upgrade. Like, let's do these things. Instead, like, it's just like a bunch of miscellaneous pieces that they're just kind of like smacking together. And I don't think that they are any better than what they were last year at all. Like, at this point, I mean, when's the last time Aaron Rodgers made the playoffs? COVID? Like because he didn't make it.
Probably.
He didn't make it his last year in Green Bay. Then he missed. So it's been 4 years since we've seen Aaron Rodgers.
Last year in Green Bay, they lost to the Lions at the last game of the year to miss the playoffs.
Yes.
The following year was his first year as a New York Jet, and he tore his Achilles. His second year as a Jet was last season, and they didn't make the playoffs. And then this was first year with Pittsburgh. So, yeah, it was probably 2020, 2021.
Yeah, it's been 4 years since we've seen Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs. And it's like, why? Everybody, we did this with Russ. Like, when Russ went to Denver, everybody was like, oh my gosh, like Denver's going to be nasty. Guess what? They stunk. And the verdict is out on Russ now, where like he hates him. Why can't we have this same energy for Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers has shown nothing but decline in his game, and he is a complete locker room cancer. So I think that like everything that they've done this season has just overall been a downgrade for this football team. I hate everything that they've done. And I think to really cap it off, like the Minka for Ramsey trade, like, I don't know really like what that does, like trading for somebody else's problem and you give your problem away or whatever. But ultimately I don't think that makes them a better football team. And they have done so much movement and juggling this entire offseason to pretty much be the same football team And if you have my argument where I think having Rodgers is like a downgrade from having somebody like Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, just strictly because of the fact of how detrimental Aaron Rodgers could be to team chemistry.
I mean, I think that those are all completely valid points. I think just 30,000-foot view, I'm like, okay, I think they're going to be better. I think I'll have a better idea like once we do a full deep dive into it and I figure out what their schedule looks like, pretty much what the rest of them looks like. I just think I think I'm just a little bit higher on Rodgers than I was on Russ and Justin Fields coming into it. I don't think the gap between Rodgers and those guys is like substantial
Like, can
by any
Rodgers
means.
throw the football better than them? Yes. Can
Yes, that's why I think
Rodgers
I'm giving them slightly more credit.
can
Him slightly more
Rodgers
credit.
operate within an offensive system better than like a Russ or a Justin Fields at this point in his career?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think so. I don't think he
Yeah.
can, because every single time that the last time that he's bought into an offense, like he won back-to-back MVPs. But since then, he wanted Hackett and he wanted to do his own thing and all that. And it's just been like absolute detriment. So maybe if he's able to buy into like what Arthur Smith is doing offensively, like maybe we can have a conversation. But I don't think that's what the business of Aaron Rodgers is at this point in his career. It's never been.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I think he's probably at the point where he wants to make his decisions on offense. And we see how that's played out since what 2020, right? It hasn't been great, but I still think he's a little bit more talented than either Russ or Justin Fields. So I think that's why I'm looking at it as like, yeah, they did get a little bit better. I'm still worried for if they don't get TJ Watt. I understand he plays like he misses games every season, but I think that them not having TJ Watt is a much bigger deal than any move that they've made this entire offseason.
No, for sure.
So
Absolutely, for sure. But I mean, we're just so, I guess, last thing on the Rodgers thing, and I'll shut up, but we're so far removed from like seeing an elite Rodgers season that I feel like people have like rose tinted like glasses on,
yes,
where they're like, well,
yes,
Aaron Rodgers can sling it. It's like, well, he had like, and I think I've said this recently, but like he had Garrett Wilson, Devonta Adams, and Alan Lazard and Brees Hall last season, and couldn't win football games on offense.
yeah,
Like, so it's just like, I don't know. Like, he is going to now a situation where like the talent is way worse. And I'm not looking at Rodgers as somebody at this point in his career who's elevating talent. I feel like that he would need the best talent around him to get the most out of Rodgers. And I think that we had a situation like that last year with the Jets where he handpicked all of his guys. He even traded for Devonta Adams and he still stunk. Like that offense, like stats wise, people will be like, well, if you look at the stats, like blah, blah, blah. If you watch the games, that offense was so disjointed, it was hard to watch.
yeah. I do agree, and I think that is where a lot of the hype around it comes because they see like PFF rating Aaron Rodgers as like the 15th best quarterback and being like, oh, okay, well, now he's on the Steelers and things won't be as disjointed as they were on the Jets. But people also got to realize that the Steelers haven't been an offensive juggernaut since the Triple Bs.
Yeah, forever.
So I don't know. I'm trying to go into the season preview with as clear mind and as little bias as possible until I can like look through the Steelers and like figure out who they play and whatnot. But it could very well just be the same situation that they had last year again. And then they're in a spot where they draft 16th and six quarterbacks that come out of college next year, they don't get any of them. So who knows?
I hope that happens.
I do as well. I really do, because then they'll just be playing the quarterback roulette until Mike Tomlin gets fired.
Conversation for a different day.
I just spit it.